The arrival of the alien soldiers. The Tsarn Empire was feared across the galaxy. Their soldiers were strong, their weapons advanced, and their technology unmatched. They had conquered dozens of planets, crushing any species that stood in their way. So when they received reports about a small blue planet called Earth, they thought it would be an easy victory. Commander Vorik, leader of the elite Tsarn squad, stood tall inside the sleek metallic dropship as it approached Earth's surface. His soldiers, trained for years in galactic warfare, sat silently, their armor gleaming under the dim lights. To them, this was just another mission, another planet to dominate. "We will land in the northern region," Vorik announced, his voice calm and confident. "Reports say the humans are primitive. This will be quick." The dropship cut through Earth's atmosphere like a knife through paper. The thick forests of the northern region stretched endlessly below them, dark and silent. The ship landed with a soft thud in a clearing surrounded by towering trees. The alien soldiers disembarked, their weapons ready, scanning the area. But the forest was quiet, too quiet. "No signs of life," reported Lieutenant Kor, glancing at his scanner. "Their technology must be as primitive as we thought. They don't even have defense systems." Commander Vorik nodded. "Good. Let's secure the area." The soldiers moved through the forest in perfect formation. Their armor made no sound, and their movements were precise. But as they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and the silence became heavier. There were no animals, no signs of life, just an eerie stillness that made even the most hardened soldiers uneasy. Then it happened. A sudden crack echoed through the trees. Before anyone could react, one of the soldiers, Sergeant Drax, vanished. No sound, no struggle, just gone. The squad froze, their weapons raised, scanning the area. "Drax, report." Vorik barked, but there was only silence. "Commander," Kor whispered, his voice tense, "I'm detecting movement. Fast, all around us." Another crack. Another soldier disappeared. Panic began to creep into the soldiers' minds. They were the hunters on every other planet they had conquered. But here, on Earth, something was different. They were being hunted. "Fall back to the ship," Vorik ordered, his voice sharp. But the path back was gone. Where the clearing once was, there were now only trees. Thick, dense, and unfamiliar. It was as if the forest itself had shifted, trapping them inside. Suddenly, the comms system crackled to life, but it wasn't a voice from their team. It was a human voice, calm and cold. "Welcome to Earth," the voice said. "You should have stayed in your ships." Then, chaos erupted. Explosions lit up the night, blinding flashes followed by the screams of soldiers. The humans attacked with precision, using the forest as their ally. The Xarn's advanced technology was useless here. Their scanners couldn't detect the humans, and their weapons missed targets they couldn't see. Vorik's heart pounded in his chest, a rare feeling for someone who had never known fear. He watched as his elite squad was taken down, one, by creatures they had dismissed as weak. The humans didn't fight like any species he had encountered before. They were fast, smart, and ruthless. Within minutes, half the squad was gone. Vorik's confidence turned to dread. He realized this was no simple mission. They had walked into a trap, and the humans were not the prey. As the last of the explosions faded, Vorik looked around. Only a few of his soldiers remained, their eyes wide with fear. The once proud warriors of the Xarn Empire were now hiding, trying to survive. "What are these creatures?" one soldier whispered. Vorik clenched his jaw. "They're humans, and we underestimated them." In the distance, the human voice echoed again through the comms. "Run, if you can, but remember this. You came to conquer, but you will leave with fear." The message was clear. The humans weren't just defending their planet. They were sending a warning to the entire galaxy. And for the first time in his life, Commander Vorik felt true fear. The mission had only just begun, But the Xarn soldiers now understood a terrifying truth. Earth was not a place to conquer. It was a place to survive, if they were lucky. The first encounter. The forest was no longer just silent. It felt alive, as if it were watching them. The remaining Xarn soldiers huddled together, their once proud formation now broken. The fear in their eyes was unmistakable. Commander Vorik clenched his fists, trying to suppress the growing dread inside him. "We are not defeated yet," he growled, trying to rally his troops. "We will find these humans and crush them." But his words felt hollow, even to himself. They moved carefully through the dense trees, every shadow a potential threat. The air was thick with tension, and even the smallest sound made the soldiers jump. Their advanced scanners, once their greatest advantage, were useless here. The humans had somehow found a way to hide from their technology. Hours passed with no sign of their attackers. Just as a false sense of calm began to settle over the group, a sharp whistle cut through the air, followed by a sudden explosion. The ground beneath them erupted, throwing soldiers into the air. Vorik hit the ground hard, his vision blurred, but he could hear the screams of his men. When he regained his senses, he saw them, the humans. They were smaller than the Xarn, their armor crude compared to the sleek designs of the Empire. But there was something terrifying in their eyes. It wasn't just determination. It was a cold, calculating focus. They moved like shadows, striking with precision and disappearing before the Xarn could retaliate. Lieutenant Kor tried to raise his weapon, but a human was faster. With a swift motion, the human disarmed him and delivered a fatal blow. Kor's body hit the ground with a thud, his eyes wide in shock. Vorik's heart raced. He had faced countless enemies before, but none like this. The humans didn't rely on superior technology or brute strength. They used the environment, their instincts, and a deep understanding of warfare that went beyond anything the Xarn had encountered. "Fall back," Vorik shouted, but there was nowhere to run. The humans had them surrounded. One by one, the soldiers fell, their advanced armor and weapons no match for the humans' ruthless efficiency. Vorik fought with everything he had, but he could feel the tide turning against him. For every human they managed to wound, 3 more appeared from the shadows. Finally, as the last of his men fell, Vorik found himself face to face with the human leader. The man's face was partially hidden by a mask, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made Vorik's blood run cold. "Why are you here?" the human asked, his voice low and steady. Vorik didn't answer. He couldn't. For the first time in his life, he was speechless. The human took a step closer. "You thought we were weak. You thought this would be easy. But you were wrong." Without another word, the human struck Vorik, sending him crashing to the ground. Pain shot through his body, but it was nothing compared to the fear that gripped his heart. As darkness closed in around him, Vorik realized the horrifying truth. The humans were not just fighters. They were predators. And the Xarn Empire had just become their prey. When Vorik awoke, he was alone. The forest was quiet again, but it was no longer the peaceful silence of before. It was the silence of death. His squad was gone, wiped out by an enemy they had underestimated. Staggering to his feet, Vorik knew he had to escape. He had to warn the Empire. But as he limped through the forest, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The humans had let him live for a reason, and he was terrified to find out why. The turning point. Commander Vorik stumbled through the dense forest, his vision blurred and his body aching. The once proud leader of the Xarn Empire's elite squad was now a lone survivor, haunted by the memory of his fallen soldiers. The humans had decimated his team with terrifying efficiency, and now every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs sent a jolt of fear through him. But Vorik was a soldier. He couldn't let fear control him. Reaching a small clearing, he activated his communicator, trying to contact the orbiting command ship. Static. The humans had jammed their signals, another sign of their unexpected technological prowess. Vorik's mind raced. How could such a primitive species outsmart the most advanced warriors in the galaxy? He needed answers, and he knew the only way to get them was to find the human base. Hours turned into a day as Vorik navigated the unfamiliar terrain. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, and exhaustion weighed down his limbs. But the fear of the humans kept him moving. He finally stumbled upon an abandoned building, a relic of human warfare, half buried in the earth and covered in vines. Curiosity and desperation drove him inside. The air was thick with dust, and the walls were lined with old photographs, maps, and strange symbols. Vorik activated his translator, scanning the texts. They spoke of wars, not against aliens, but against each other. The humans had fought countless battles over centuries, not for survival against other species, but against themselves. This was their secret. Humans didn't just fight. They thrived in conflict. War was in their blood, their history, their very nature. They had perfected the art of survival through endless struggles. They adapted, learned, and became stronger with every battle. Vorik found an old journal, its pages brittle and worn. As he flipped through, he read about strategies, guerrilla warfare, and psychological tactics designed to break the enemy's spirit. The Karn had never faced an opponent like this. Every species they had conquered had fought for survival. But humans fought to win, no matter the cost. A sudden noise snapped Vorik out of his thoughts. He wasn't alone. From the shadows, a figure emerged, a human, armed but relaxed, as if he knew Vorik was no longer a threat. The human's eyes were sharp, studying him with an unsettling calm. "You found our history," the human said, his voice steady. "Now you understand." Vorik raised his weapon instinctively, but the human didn't flinch. "Go ahead," the human whispered, "but it won't change anything." Vorik hesitated. For the first time, he realized the futility of his mission. Even if he killed this human, it wouldn't matter. There were millions more like him. Fighters, survivors, predators. "Why are you doing this?" Vorik finally asked, his voice hoarse. The human stepped closer, his gaze never wavering. "Because you came here thinking we were weak. You thought you could conquer us like you did with others. But humans don't just survive. We adapt. We overcome. And when you threaten our home, we become something you can't understand." Vorik lowered his weapon, the weight of the human's words sinking in. This wasn't just about Earth. This was about the galaxy. The Tarn Empire had awakened a force far more dangerous than they could ever imagine. "Leave," the human said, turning away. "Tell your empire what you've seen. But remember, if you come back, we'll be ready." Vorik watched as the human disappeared into the shadows. He knew what he had to do. He had to survive, not just for himself, but to warn his people. The humans were unlike any enemy that Tarn had faced before. And if the Empire didn't heed his warning, they would face a war they couldn't win. As Vorik made his way back through the forest, he realized the terrifying truth. The humans hadn't just defeated his squad. They had broken the spirit of the Tarn Empire's finest soldiers. And that was only the beginning. The hidden truth. Commander Vorik's journey back to the drop zone was slow and painful. His injuries ached with every step, but the weight of what he had discovered pressed heavier on his mind. The humans were not just skilled fighters. They were a species forged in endless conflict, their entire history a testament to survival against impossible odds. When Vorik finally reached the clearing where the dropship had landed, he found it in ruins. The sleek metallic structure, once a symbol of Tarn superiority, now lay twisted and scorched, a silent grave for the soldiers who had remained behind. The humans had destroyed it, cutting off Vorik's only means of escape. But they hadn't killed him. That fact gnawed at Vorik's mind. Why had they spared him? Was it mercy, or something more sinister? Determined to find answers, Vorik scavenged what supplies he could from the wreckage and set out towards the mountains he had seen in the distance. If the humans had a base, it would be there, hidden away in the harshest terrain, just like their tactics. Days passed. Vorik moved under the cover of night, avoiding open spaces, always aware of the eyes that seemed to watch him from the shadows. He found signs of human activity, traps, old campsites, and symbols carved into trees. But he saw no one. It was as if the humans were leading him somewhere. Finally, he reached the entrance to a hidden bunker, half buried in the mountainside. The door was old, rusted, but it opened with a soft hiss when Vorik approached. He stepped inside, his weapon raised, ready for an ambush. But there was no attack. The bunker was silent, its walls lined with ancient technology and relics of human warfare. Vorik moved cautiously through the narrow corridors until he entered a large room filled with holographic displays and old data terminals. One screen flickered to life as he approached, displaying images of human history, wars, revolutions, conflicts spanning centuries. Vorik activated his translator, and a voice filled the room. "If you are hearing this, you have survived longer than we expected," the voice said. It was the same calm, cold voice he had heard in the forest. "We are not your enemy, Commander, but we are not your prey either." The images shifted, showing footage of Kharn ships conquering other worlds, enslaving species, and destroying civilizations. But then, the images changed again, this time showing human victories against impossible odds, defeating alien invaders, and turning back forces far stronger than themselves. "You see, Commander," the voice continued, "humans have faced extinction countless times. We have fought each other, we have fought the unknown, and every time, we have emerged stronger. You came here thinking we were weak, but our strength lies not in our technology or our numbers. It lies in our will to survive, to adapt." Vorik felt a chill run down his spine. The humans weren't just warning him, they were teaching him a lesson. "We spared you for a reason," the voice said. "You are a messenger now. Go back to your empire. Tell them what you've seen. Tell them that Earth is not a prize to be won. It is a graveyard for those who try." The message ended, and the room fell silent once more. Vorik stood there, staring at the images on the screen, realizing the full weight of what he had learned. The Xarn Empire's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology. It was underestimating the human spirit. With renewed determination, Vorik left the bunker. The humans had given him a chance to live, and he would use it to warn his people. But deep down, he knew it might already be too late. That Kharn had awakened a force they couldn't control, and the galaxy would never be the same. As he made his way back through the forest, Vorik realized that the humans hadn't just shown him their strength, they had shown him the truth. A truth that would haunt him for the rest of his life. And if the Xarn Empire didn't listen, it would be a truth that would destroy them. The desperate escape. Commander Vorik moved through the dark forest, every step a struggle between exhaustion and determination. The message from the humans echoed in his mind, louder than the snapping of twigs beneath his feet. He had to escape. He had to warn the Kharn Empire. But deep inside, a gnawing fear whispered, "What if no one believes me?" As dawn approached, the first light of day revealed the full devastation of Earth's wilderness. Trees stood like silent sentinels, their twisted branches casting eerie shadows. The forest felt alive, as if it were conspiring with the humans, trapping Vorik in its endless maze. His advanced scanners remained useless, unable to detect anything beyond the immediate vicinity. The humans' ability to hide from technology was nothing short of terrifying. Suddenly, Vorik froze. A faint humming sound vibrated through the air, low and rhythmic. His heart raced as he recognized it. It wasn't human. It was Kharn technology. A recon drone. Vorik sprinted toward the sound, pushing his injured body to its limits. Bursting through the underbrush, he spotted the sleek, silver form of the drone hovering just above the ground. Relief surged through him as he activated his communicator. "This is Commander Vorik of the Xarn Empire," he gasped, his voice strained. "I request immediate extraction. Coordinates incoming." The drone emitted a soft peep, acknowledging his signal. For the first time in days, hope flickered in Vorik's heart. He was going to make it. But then the forest went silent. Vorik's instincts screamed at him, "Run!" But it was too late. A sharp whistle cut through the air, followed by an explosion that sent the drone crashing to the ground in flames. Vorik was thrown backward, his vision spinning. As he struggled to his feet, shadows emerged from the trees. Humans, their faces hidden behind masks, their eyes cold and calculating. "You didn't think we'd let you leave so easily, did you?" A familiar voice echoed. It was the same voice from the bunker. Vorik raised his weapon, but deep down, he knew it was futile. The humans had outmaneuvered him at every turn. But he wasn't going to surrender. Not yet. With a burst of adrenaline, Vorik fired, forcing the humans to take cover. Using the chaos, he darted through the trees, his mind focused on one goal: escape. The forest became a blur as Vorik navigated its twists and turns, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind him. Every breath burned in his lungs, every muscle screamed in protest, but he couldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. Just when he thought his body would give out, he spotted something in the distance, a faint glow in the sky. A Xarn extraction ship. Summoning every ounce of strength, Vorik sprinted toward the light. His hope rekindled. The ship's doors were open, and he could see the silhouettes of his fellow soldiers inside, waiting. But the humans were close. Too close. A shot rang out, grazing Vorik's shoulder. Pain shot through him, but he didn't slow down. He could hear the humans shouting, their footsteps pounding behind him. The extraction ship's engines roared to life, and for a moment, Vorik feared they would leave without him. With a final, desperate leap, Vorik dove into the ship's bay as the doors slammed shut. The ship lifted off, the ground below shrinking away. Vorik lay on the cold metal floor, gasping for breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He had made it. But as the ship ascended into the sky, Vorik's relief was short-lived. He glanced out the window and saw the humans standing below, watching. They hadn't tried to stop the ship. They had let him escape. And that terrified Vorik more than anything. Back on the ship, the crew rushed to tend to his wounds, their faces filled with concern and confusion. "Commander," one of them asked, "what happened down there?" Vorik's eyes darkened. He looked around at his comrades, knowing the words he was about to speak would change everything. "We underestimated them," he whispered. "Humans are not just another species. They are the deadliest force in the galaxy." The crew fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Vorik leaned back, closing his eyes. He had escaped Earth, but the memories of what he had seen, the ruthlessness, the strategy, the sheer will of humanity, would haunt him forever. And deep down, he knew the Xarn Empire's real battle was only beginning. The aftermath. The extraction ship cut through the atmosphere, leaving Earth behind as a distant blue sphere. But for Commander Vorik, Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a nightmare that clung to his mind, refusing to let go. The hum of the ship's engines should have been comforting, but instead, it felt like the ticking of a countdown to something far worse. Vorik sat in the medical bay, his wounds bandaged, but his spirit remained shattered. The crew moved quietly around him, stealing glances filled with questions they were too afraid to ask. The silence was suffocating. Finally, the ship's captain, a tall Xarn named Jorik, approached. His expression was a mix of concern and disbelief. "Commander," Jorik began, his voice low, "we received fragments of your transmission before the signal was lost. But it's hard to believe. You're saying the humans defeated you." Vorik's jaw tightened. "They didn't just defeat us. They dismantled us. With precision, strategy, and something more." Jorik frowned. "But their technology is inferior. Their resources limited. How could they possibly?" "It's not about technology," Vorik interrupted, his voice sharper than he intended. "It's about their will. Their history is soaked in conflict. They've been fighting longer than our empire has existed. and every battle has made them stronger, more adaptable. Jorek's disbelief wavered, but skepticism lingered in his eyes. We will see what the High Council says. The journey back to the Xarn Empire was long, but Vorik found no rest. His dreams were plagued with images of the humans, their cold, calculating eyes, their merciless tactics. He awoke each time with the same thought. The Empire won't understand until it's too late. When the ship finally docked at the capital spaceport, Vorik was escorted directly to the High Council. The towering chamber, with its gleaming walls and grand pillars, felt oppressive. The council members, robed in traditional Xarn attire, sat in a semicircle, their faces stern and unyielding. Vorik stood before them, his posture rigid despite the exhaustion. He recounted everything: the ambush, the humans' tactics, their history of warfare, and the message they had left him with. As he spoke, he saw the council's expression shift from curiosity to skepticism, and finally to amusement. When he finished, there was a long silence before Councillor Threx, the eldest member, spoke. "Commander Vorik," Threx said, his voice dripping with condescension, "it seems the humans' primitive warfare has rattled you. But the Xarn Empire has faced greater threats. Your fear is unnecessary." Vorik's fists clenched. "With all due respect, Counselor, you didn't see what I saw. This isn't just another species to conquer. They're different. They're relentless." Threx chuckled, dismissing Vorik's warnings with a wave of his hand. "Prepare another fleet. This time, we will overwhelm them." Vorik felt a cold pit form in his stomach. They weren't listening. Weeks passed as the Empire assembled its largest fleet yet, a force meant to crush Earth and its inhabitants in a single decisive blow. Vorik watched from the sidelines, powerless to stop the inevitable disaster. The fleet launched, thousands of ships streaking through the stars, a symbol of Xarn's might. But Vorik knew what awaited them. He had seen the humans' resolve, their ability to turn any advantage into a trap. And then the reports started coming in. First, it was a single ship lost, then a squadron. And soon, entire battalions were vanishing without a trace. The High Council's confidence crumbled as they realized the truth. Vorik had been right. The final transmission from the fleet was brief, filled with static and the sounds of chaos. But one message cut through clearly, chilling Vorik to the bone. They knew we were coming. They were waiting for us. The Xarn Empire fell into panic. Earth had not just defended itself, it had turned the Empire's greatest strength into its greatest weakness. The humans had studied them, predicted their every move, and dismantled their forces piece by piece. Vorik watched as the High Council, once so sure of their superiority, descended into fear and confusion. But he felt no satisfaction, only dread. Because he knew this was just the beginning. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had sent a message to the entire galaxy. We are not to be conquered. We are the hunters now. And Vorik knew, deep in his heart, that the Xarn Empire's days were numbered. The legend of humanity. Years passed, but the scars of Earth's resistance never faded from the Xarn Empire's collective memory. The once mighty empire, which had conquered countless worlds without hesitation, now shuddered at the mere mention of humanity. Earth had become more than a battleground. It was a symbol, a legend whispered in fear across the galaxy. Commander Vorik, once hailed as a hero of the Xarn Empire, lived in quiet exile. His warnings had gone unheeded, and the Empire had paid the price. The defeat at Earth had shattered not just their military strength, but their unshakable belief in their own superiority. Vorik's name was now both a curse and a reminder of the folly of arrogance. From his isolated outpost on a distant moon, Vorik watched as reports trickled in from across the galaxy. Other empires, curious about the mysterious, defiant species on Earth, sent scouts and soldiers. None returned. The galaxy began to understand. Humanity was not just another primitive species. They were an apex predator among stars. On Earth, humanity thrived, unaware of the growing legend that surrounded them. Their victory over the Xarn Empire had united them in ways centuries of internal conflict never could. But they hadn't forgotten. They knew other alien civilizations existed, watching, waiting, and humanity prepared. In underground bunkers, deep space stations, and hidden laboratories, humans advanced their technology at an unprecedented rate. They reverse-engineered what little Xarn technology they had salvaged, blending it with their own innovations. But it wasn't just about technology. Humans trained, honing their strategies and perfecting their defenses. They didn't just want to survive the next invasion. They wanted to dominate it. Back in the heart of the galaxy, the remaining Xarn leaders convened in secret, debating their next move. Fear gripped them, but so did pride. Some argued for another assault, convinced that overwhelming force would finally break humanity. Others, remembering Vorik's warnings and the catastrophic losses, urged caution. But it was too late. One fateful day, the Xarn Empire received a transmission, not from their scouts, but from Earth. The message was simple, but its implications were devastating. We remember. The transmission wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Soon after, Xarn colonies began to fall, not to large-scale invasions, but to precise, surgical strikes. Entire fleets vanished without a trace. Xarn outposts reported sightings of human ships, sleek and silent, moving like ghosts through space. The humans had learned from their enemies, adapting Xarn tactics and turning them against their former conquerors. The hunters had become the hunted. Vorik watched from afar, both horrified and awed by humanity's rise. They hadn't just defended their world, they had become a force of reckoning. The galaxy, once ruled by empires like the Xarn, now whispered tales of Earth's terrifying defenders, stories of a species that fought not just to survive, but to conquer those who dared threaten them. The Xarn Empire, now a shadow of its former self, eventually fell into chaos. The High Council, once so confident in their dominance, disbanded in fear and disgrace. Worlds that had once bowed to Xarn rule now declared independence, emboldened by humanity's defiance. And humanity. They didn't stop at Earth's borders. Human ships explored deeper into the galaxy, not as invaders, but as a warning. They didn't seek to conquer, but their message was clear. We will not be victims. Commander Vorik, in his final days, recorded one last message, a reflection of the journey that had changed not just him, but the entire galaxy. We believed ourselves to be the apex of evolution, the rulers of the stars. But we were wrong. Humanity has shown us that true strength isn't just in technology or numbers. It's in the will to fight against impossible odds, to adapt, to survive. And now, they are the force we all fear, the legend we all whisper about in the dark. Earth was never just a planet. It was the spark that ignited the fall of empires. The recording ended, but Vorik's words lived on, passed from world to world, a final testament to the species that had brought the mighty Xarn Empire to its knees. And across the stars, one truth became undeniable. Humans were the universe's most lethal warriors.